that the defendant should be sentenced to death, signed the foreperson.
That was part of the sentencing this morning for one of the worst serial killers in Arizona history.
Our Craig Harris was at the courthouse where CLEOPHUS COOKSEY Jr., who also killed his own mother, learned his fate.
It was a nearly 3-week killing spree in late 2017. 8 victims, including the mom and stepdad of CLEOPHUS COOKSEY Jr. In Maricopa County Superior Court on Thursday, he learned his fate. 6 times, the jury unanimously decided he deserved the death penalty.
The jury has unanimously determined that for each of them, the appropriate sentence is death. So it is the judgment of the court that you be sentenced to life in prison to be executed by lethal injection in due course.
That was Judge Mark Brain. In 2 of the murders involving his mom and stepdad, the jury could not reach a unanimous decision. The jurors told us after the hearing that they chose leniency in those cases. As for the other 6, they said they simply followed the law and concluded he deserved death. Prosecutors have said they didn't have a motive for every murder. Cooksey also was charged with armed robbery, sexual assault, and kidnapping. Cooksey sat stoic as the sentences were read. Earlier in the hearing, he was seen smiling and even laughing. Some family members and friends of the victims cried as the sentences were read. All declined to be interviewed on Thursday. But Eric Hampton, a friend of the victims, had this to say in September.
I've known him since, I've known him since he was a kid. Kind of really surprising to see what type of monster he became.
Cooksey now becomes the 108th person on Arizona's death row. After the hearing, we talked to Phoenix Police Sergeant Lorraine Fernandez about the case finally coming to a close.
You know, these families were never going to be able to hold their loved ones anymore. Getting the justice for those families and having that end, that hopefully that closure for them is helpful in that aspect. And as well, as long as with our detectives, they're invested, and they've been invested since 2017, you know, actively seeking any sort of tips that come through. It's a constant working, case that is, you know, a living document, basically. So for everyone to be able to have that closure is huge for us.
The sentencing's come nearly 8 years to the day that Cooksey killed his mom and his stepdad. Reporting in downtown Phoenix, I'm Craig Harris, 12 News.
In Trumbull County, a jury found a man from Girard guilty of sexually abusing a young child for years. Today was sentencing day. First News anchor Dave Sess is in the newsroom with details on the punishment. Dave.
Yeah, and the hammer fell on that man who was convicted in a Trumbull County rape case. Shane JANETTA turned down a plea deal in November that offered him 35 years to life in prison if he pleaded guilty. Well, this week, he was convicted on most of the charges, and today he was sentenced to a very long prison term. Sentencing for Shane JANETTA. He had been convicted of rape involving a child. Judge Cynthia Westcott Rice delivered a punishment to fit the crime.
For a total sentence of 120 years to 125.
We're thrilled with the sentence. We were very pleased with the jury's verdict, and Judge Rice in her sentence has made sure that he will never victimize another child again.
Assistant Prosecuting Attorney Diane Barber was part of the team which handled the case. A criminal complaint stated JANETTA had forced a victim under the age of 16 into sexual activity from 2017 until it was stopped this year at his apartment in Girard.
The videos were horrific. He recorded himself committing these crimes. The evidence was incontrovertible.
That led to the conviction. And before sentencing, a statement was read on the victim's behalf.
My body and mind react as if there is danger close by, even when I am safe. I struggle with worry, fear, and emotional distress that can appear suddenly.
And a relative shared about the toll of the attacks.
He broke his promise when he forced himself onto a helpless little girl, knowing her mother was working to provide for her family and her baby sister could not protect her.
The judge ignored JANETTA's plea for mercy, saying he did not hear the victim's cries to stop and made her live a life of fear and confusion while stealing her innocence. The arrest wrapped up a string of horrible activity. The conviction put JANETTA in prison for a long time. The child brought it to an end, telling her mother, knowing his actions were not right.
As well as we can't forget to commend the victim in this case, who had the courage to come forward, testify in open court, and stop this.
Yeah, Diane Barber also commended the work of the Liberty Police Department, saying it did an excellent job collecting all the evidence in this case, those videos which made a difference with the jury. Shane JANETTA can still appeal the conviction, though. Live in the newsroom, Dave Sess, WKBN 27 First News.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lindsay Watson. Thanks for watching.